Hi, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel. I get a lot of questions about interfacing and they don't understand what type of interfacing they should use. So I'm going to try to explain a little bit about what interfacing is used for and what types I use. So here is a pattern that has a shirt on it that's got a collar. Now there's no cuffs on it. Often in clothing, they ask you to put interfacing in the collars, if there's any cuffs, and also if there's buttons, so that you would put interfacing along the two sides where the buttons would go. And the information about the type of interfacing they ask you to get is on the back, but sometimes they're not very clear. For instance, this one just says fusible interfacing. Well, that all depends on how stiff you want that collar or how soft you want that collar to be. So here is some examples of interfacing right here. This is light fusible interfacing. And it's got little, you can't see it on camera, but little tiny beads of glue are on the back. So this is the side you would put against your fabric and you would follow package instructions. This is heavy iron-on interfacing. It doesn't have beads of glue, it just has a coating of glue that's, I think, just sprayed on, and it's shiny. So if you're using this kind of interfacing, you kind of have to go and hold it up against the light, and if it shines, that's the glue side. And then here is fusible fleece. Now this is very soft and fuzzy on one side, and then it's got glue on the other side. Now if I was going to do this collar here, I might do the collar anywhere from a lightweight or to a medium weight, because it looks like they're just using cotton. But there's also featherweight, which is even lighter than the lightweight. There's also extra heavy fusible interfacing. Now, I don't use very much of the fusible fleece. I'm kind of still on the fence about if I like it or not. Some people love it. So if you love a particular product, then that's what you want to use if you get great results. I use a lot of the medium to heavy interfacing in tote bags a lot. I use some of the medium interfacing in clothing when it calls for it. But I usually make very few tops that have collars like this and cuffs on them. I mostly make very simple little tops. Now, here is another product called Fuse and Shape. I have not used this yet, but this is two-sided iron-on interfacing. And on here, it shows different projects you can do. So you can see all these great things that you can make with this Fuse and Shape. That doesn't mean you can't make it with the heavy iron-on interfacing or the fleece. Your batting can be used in pot holders, placemats, table runners, of course, quilts, bed quilts, lap quilts, so many things you can use cotton batting in. So that's what this is down here. On top, this is polyester batting. Now this is the extra loft. This is about a 1/2 inch wide. And I love this stuff. I use this in small baby quilts because they're very fluffy and kind of puffy looking. And it's real easy to work with, and it's very affordable. And you can buy it in packages in the baby quilt size or crib size. And that's what's really nice about it. You can go ahead and just, well, what am I making? You can get it all the way up to king size bed if you want to. Now your cotton batting, I like, and there's a variety of brands. I happen to like the warm and natural. That's what this piece is. Now, most of your cotton batting looks pretty much the same, but not all of it is 100% cotton. The warm and natural, I used to buy it by the great big large rolls that you get off of the bolts in the fabric stores, those big large rolls. And back years ago, it would cost me maybe $150 to $200, and it would last me a really long time. The last time I bought one, it was $250, and now it's even more. So to buy the warm and natural, you can buy it by the yard. It's gotten very, very expensive. So I have gone to the blend where it's cotton and polyester blend. Pellon makes it. It's not my favorite, but it is more affordable, and you can still do a lot of things with it. I get questions all the time from viewers about how to cut certain things out. So I'm going to give you a few little tips on how to use a pair of scissors to cut out a square or use a rotary cutter. And I'll even show you how to cut out strips really quick. So let's get started. This is a square ruler. This one is a 6.5-inch square. You can get these in a variety of sizes. I recommend, if you're going to get into sewing and crafts and quilting, I recommend you buy a 12.5-inch square ruler. You'll be able to use it in so many different ways. But for this demonstration, I'm just going to use the 6.5-inch ruler. So if you don't have a rotary cutter, I'll show you how to do it with just a pencil and a pair of scissors. So center your ruler on your piece of fabric. And then you're going to, let's say I want to draw a 4.5-inch square. So here's my 4.5-inch line right here. So I'm going to draw a line going from that 4.5-inch line down to this corner. And then I'm going to draw on this side up to the 4.5-inch line right here. Now I'm going to turn my fabric like this. So I've got opposite, so this side was over here. Now I've got it on the opposite side. So I'm going to place the 4.5-inch line here and here on the two previously drawn lines. So I'm going to lay that out and get it right there, get it right on top of those lines. And now I'm going to go ahead and draw my lines on the last two sides. So now you've got a perfect square, and you can use scissors to cut right on those drawn lines. Now I'm going to demonstrate how to cut out a square using a rotary cutter with the acrylic ruler and a rotary cutting mat. Your rotary cutting mats come in a variety of sizes, really small up to really, really large. So if you're going to stay involved in sewing, buy the largest one you can afford. Your rotary cutters come in two different sizes, well actually three sizes, but the most common sizes are the 45 millimeter and the larger one like this that is a 60 millimeter. Most people buy the 45 millimeter because the blades are a little smaller and a little more affordable. So to cut out a square, that same 4.5-inch size, I'm going to place my ruler on top of the fabric, and I'm just going to cut along here on this edge, and then I'm going to cut over here. So I'm going to pull this away. Now I want to take this corner and bring it over here. So I'm just going to turn my fabric. So here's my two previously cut edges. So I'm going to place the 4.5-inch line here and here on the two previously cut edges. And then I'm going to cut my last two sides. And there you have your square. I'm now going to demonstrate how to cut strips, long strips of fabric. So right now I've got my fabric here. It's folded in half. These are the selvage edges. So this is what it's like when you purchase it off of the bolt of fabric. So if I want to cut a 4.5 inch wide strip, or a 2 inch wide, or a 10 inch wide, what you would do is first bring this raw edge, which is rarely straight when you buy it from the store. So you want to straighten that edge out first. So I've pulled it past one of the cutting lines on my cutting mat. So these little cutting mats are great even if you don't have a rotary cutter. Then you would just draw on your line. That will be the first line that you cut, but don't cut on it yet. So you've just drawn your first line. Now go over 4.5 inches. So I'm putting my ruler on the 4.5 inch line and make sure it's straight all the way across. Then you would draw a line. I would place pins to hold the layers of fabric together while you are using scissors to cut on the lines. If you want to use a rotary cutter to cut a strip, you'd still cut this edge straight. So align your ruler up and then just use your rotary cutter. Now I like to lift and place my hand, and lift and place my hand. I'm not one of those that just goes zip, because more than likely your ruler will shift. So I'm just going to go ahead. I did my first cut. I'm lifting my hand and then lift. And you can get a nice clean cut all the way down. Now to get that 4.5 inch wide strip, don't move your fabric. Move the ruler over 4.5 inches and make sure you take your time lining up your ruler, and then cut. And if you wanted a second strip, don't move your fabric, move it over again 4.5 inches and cut your next strip of fabric. And now you have 2 strips. If you have a lot of squares to cut out that are the same size, here's a really quick way to do that. You would go ahead and cut out your long strips, just like I did. So these are those 4.5 inch wide strips. But remember, you cut your strips any width you want. So once I've done that, I've stacked my strips. So I've got those 2 sitting on top of each other. I've aligned the edge on my cutting mat. Make sure it's all lined up along there. And then you're going to cut those selvage edges off. So I'm just placing it, my ruler, on a straight line. Here's these selvages. I want to cut them off. And then what I do is I move it over 4.5 inches. Do not move your fabric. Leave your fabric right where it is. And then cut. Move it over 4.5 inches again and cut, and then you would do it again. You would keep going on down until you have all the squares you need cut. Well, I hope this tutorial has helped you with some of your cutting problems. If you have the right tools, it's going to make your cutting experience much easier. Some people don't like to cut fabric because they don't know how to do it correctly. I really love cutting the fabric. I find it very relaxing. And another tip for when you're cutting, don't cut when you're tired. You will make a mistake, and I know that for a fact. If you're interested in other sewing tips and beginner sewing projects, check below your YouTube screen for those video links. Make sure you also follow me on Instagram, and don't forget to go and check out my Facebook page. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and happy sewing. If you like the Sewing Room channel, one of the best ways to show your support is to subscribe by clicking on that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And make sure you click on the bell so you receive notifications for all my new videos. I'm Cheryl. This is Manny. See you next time.